The graduation exam finally begins, and Kakashi, the 6th Hokage, is the proctor doctor, and he's bringing his very own brand and prescription of pain. Ladies and gentlemen, Naruto fans, this week's episode of Boruto Naruto Next Generations was awesome. Dare I say it, it was a classic episode, definitely harkening back to the original Naruto anime series, and for all of the best reasons. The tension, the strategy, the teamwork, the great cliffhanger ending, and the fact that they brought back an element which we've seen so many times in the Naruto series that you would imagine that it would get stale. I'm talking about the bell test. We have seen this scenario played out so many times in the Naruto series, and yet here, they actually managed to make it a little fresher and more enjoyable, as the students aren't simply just going up against Kakashi. Oh no, they're actually going to be throwing down with Konohamaru, Shino, and Anko. That's right, all 4 of them they're going to have to deal with. And this is basically the tuning exam, which is really extreme. You can see they sort of like upped the ante a little bit. And what I really love about this is that they're basically like punching this whole wholesome look of the Boruto anime series in the face in this episode. Because you have to admit, the entire tone of the Boruto anime is completely different from the original Naruto and Naruto Shippuden anime series, and that's because there's not this giant global conflict which is going on. The world is now at peace, but when Kakashi and his subordinates come in this episode and they remind him that this is a dog-eat-dog world, things get really serious, especially when he tries to trick them, of course, with the fact that only one bell can actually be taken from him. And there are a lot of freaking students at this academy who want to become ninja. And thankfully, we get to see a lot of them in action in this episode. Some of them finally get name drops that we've never even heard before. And just the pleasure of seeing Shino, Anko, and Konohamaru in battle is awesome. Kakashi, of course, is awesome in everything that he's in every episode. Of course, I'm a little biased because he's my favorite character, but he was especially cool in this episode, especially how he's coaching Boruto. Like, throughout the entire episode, he basically just tries to make Boruto feel like crap, that he's simply just a good ninja because he is the son of Naruto, and that he doesn't necessarily have the skills to take him down. He even acknowledges his strength while actually pinning him to the ground, which is incredibly demoralizing and doing a great job of getting into Boruto's head. Of course, this has always been a part of Kakashi's strategy to come across as this very cold and uncaring ninja, to sort of draw out those innate and wonderful things that make the characters the way they are in the Naruto franchise. But really, what's going on in this episode of Boruto? Well, it's quite simple. As I said, Kakashi is going to be doing the bell test again for all of the students. The biggest difference here is that there's going to be Anko, Konohamaru, and Shino who are going to be joining, and they're wearing these like weird apparatuses, and they have these like symbols on the middle of their chest, and they're glowing, so that's basically the target that everyone's going to be going for. If they manage to break that, that means that character is no longer going to be able to participate in this tournament, and they're basically dead at that moment. Even the students themselves are wearing some white bandanas, which when they do get defeated, they are going to have to take them off. And this leads to some of my favorite scenes from the episode. Getting to see a lot of the pairings and the groups come together. It kind of gives us some previews of what maybe the Genin teams are actually going to be like in the next part of the series. Of course, we already know that Sarada, Mitsuki, and Boruto are going to end up together, and we know Inoshi Kacho is going to happen because that always freaking happens. But other than that, we also have some really great combinations that I never even thought of before. I love the fact that it looks like Metal Lee might actually be teamed up with Iwabe and with Denki. I really like this prospect, as we never really got to see, I believe, his other 2 team members in the Boruto film. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure we didn't really get to see too much of that, but maybe we did. But still, maybe they could change it so that he's actually going to team up with these brand new characters. I also love that we got some name drops of characters you've never seen before. That one kid who looks a lot like Kakashi, mostly for the fact that he wears a mask. I believe his name was Hoki. There's also Enko, who's the female member of that team, and then Hoshi. But of course, they all immediately get defeated. So does the Gothic Lolita girl and a couple of those other side characters by Konohamaru, who brings all sorts of pain in this episode, despite the fact that he still manages to be incredibly goofy when he's caught off guard by some really weird techniques, like Sarada and Sumire teaming up against him and her actually utilizing the New A abilities. You even have a whole other group of ninja who are trying to go up against Anko, who was a real surprise in this episode right here. She's still utilizing Orochimaru's very own brand of snake jutsu, where she has all of these snake tendrils come out from and transform in from her arms, and the sequence where she's fighting against Ino Shikacho and the other ninja in a field is just really well animated and looks so fantastic. Despite the fact that Anko is a little different than she used to be, I mean, she's put on a little bit of weight, she still has the skills to pay the bills, and I really loved her in this episode. She's still the same old Anko that we've always known. And then there's freaking Mitsuki versus Shino. This battle alone could take up an entire episode if they really wanted to make it that epic. And if I only had one fault with this episode, is that we do not get to see their battle at all. They started up, Mitsuki starts powering up like a freaking Dragon Ball character, and he has this blue aura which is coming up around him. Manga readers might actually know what this is, but we don't really get to see much of it in the episode, as the next time we go back to their battle, Shino has already been defeated. The weird thingy on his chest has been destroyed, and Mitsuki is the victor. But while all of this is going on, of course, Boruto has met Kakashi in the middle of this massive forest, which may or may not be the Forest of Death from the Chunin exam. Maybe that's a detail I missed, but that's beside the point. They met at the tallest tree in the middle of this forest, and Boruto finds him, and this is when their battle begins. And very much like Naruto's first confrontation with Kakashi to try to get the bell, he utilizes a lot of clone techniques, but I love that they're fighting initially in the tree before they make their way back to the ground. And there's a lot of really great fake-out moments, which I think the Naruto series is very famous for, where something happens and it's actually just a setup for another trap. It's like watching Mousetrap in motion. It's awesome. And then eventually they get down on the ground, they start fighting with each other. We even get to see the return of Boruto's stream attack, where he uses the wind chakra to push himself, and he even adds a brand new element to it where he just falls right over Kakashi, and then another one of his clones comes through the ground and actually grabs onto the bell, but he still manages to utilize a freaking substitution jutsu to get away from that. That whole scene was really solid. That, combined with a lot of the other animated elements from this episode, made this a very action-heavy and very great-looking episode. Still not completely without its faults, but still a very entertaining and classic episode of Boruto. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Boruto? Man, I almost want to give this episode a down score because we didn't get to see Mitsuki and Shino's battle, but really the whole purpose here is to show that Mitsuki's really powerful. Like, he really didn't even look all that beat up. He had a little bit of some scratches all over him, but he was able to take down Shino, although they do mention that Shino did not want to use his bugs. Of course, if he did that, that might result in the death of one of his students, and Shino does not want that on his conscience. Still, it was a great scene to establish that he was really strong, but man, I wanted to see that fight so bad. The rest of the episode, however, completely delivered on everything. Konohamaru's introduction as just being really awesome was great, where he just appears behind his opponents and just like smacks them and knocks them out immediately, just leaving behind a trail of academy students. It's hilarious. And then Sumire and Sarada teaming up against them was really fantastic. And of course, Ino Shikacho sticking together as they always do and going up against Anko. That Anko scene was great. One of her coolest scenes from the entire series, I dare say. And just the overall setting of it being in like a grassy field is just so perfect for a series about ninja, and watching them all pop up from the grass to trick her was a really fantastic moment, and she's still not backing down. And if the preview for the next episode is any indication, despite the fact that Shino is down, Konohamaru and Anko are going to continue to fight, and Boruto, of course, is going to continue to battle against Kakashi. There were some great moments between Boruto and Kakashi in this episode. I especially love that he constantly messes with Kakashi by calling him an old man, and Kakashi just wants to be recognized as the 6th Hokage. That's all he really wants, and even then Boruto meets him halfway by calling him an old man 6th Hokage. It's really funny, and throughout the episode he's definitely disrespectful to a lot of his teachers, very much like his father. There are so many scenes here that are very reminiscent of the original series, with Boruto acting just like Naruto, just immediately jumping into the battle before it even starts. and being very impatient, and even utilizing a lot of the same techniques, but of course, Kakashi is continuously trying to get into his head. This is just as much a mental battle as it is an actual physical one, and I really can't wait to see how Boruto is eventually going to be able to overcome all of this, and I can't wait for that moment where Kakashi finally does acknowledge him and apologizes for basically being a jerk to him the entire time. But I loved it. It's classic Kakashi doing what he does best, which is really priming some students to be some ninja and doing it in the most hardcore way possible. It's just fantastic stuff. This was a great episode of Boruto. Like I said, my only complaints are kind of superficial, being that Mitsuki and Shino didn't really get to fight. And I will say that while some of the action scenes look good, there were some moments of sloppiness here where some of the choreography did not look as good as some of the other stuff. That being said, I got a ton of enjoyment from this episode right here, and I can't wait to see how it's going to wrap up. I do wish they would have maybe made this arc just a little bit longer, however. I mean, we immediately got to, like, the main fights here, and while it was satisfying, I would have liked to maybe see some of these other side characters that we've never seen before actually do something. Like, they're all very interesting in their very own right, and they have more unique designs than some of the other side characters that didn't really get to do anything in the original Naruto series, and this is a great opportunity to expand on them, but maybe they're going to save them for later. We will have to see. That being said, I loved this episode. As a fan of Naruto, as a fan of Boruto, this was incredibly entertaining. It's a 5 out of 5 for me. Check it out, guys. I would love to hear your thoughts about the episode. You can tell me in the comment section below. Did you like this episode? Did you not like this episode? What did you think about the epic returns of Kakashi, Anko, Shino, and Konohamaru? Did you have a favorite scene from this episode? What do you hope to see from the conclusion of the graduation exam arc? Thank you guys for watching this review. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more Boruto reviews and more anime and manga reviews. Please like the video and share it with your friends. I'll see you guys next time. And as always, stay damn, baby.